very special few weeks in front of us. And maybe because of this course, very special lifetime even, I feel. So it's very amazing for me to be able to greet you in this special course. Just for ciao, everybody, buonasera and hello. We are a small study group, FPMT study group, around for 5 years, but just to put it in the context, we are used to organizing events for maybe 10 to 15 people. So it's quite overwhelming to us to see that over 300 people signed up for this course from all over the world. So if we were to make a poll, there would be somebody from every continent, and it's very, very special to share this amazing experience together. So we are very excited and welcome you with all our hearts to this event in the name of the Laksam Tibetan Meditation Study Group. I wanted to also give special welcome and thank you to the 4 translators. We have 4 simultaneous translation into 4 different languages, and we have amazing people sitting there and talking in the background in 4 different languages, so Italian, French, Spanish, and German. And I wanted to quickly also acknowledge that this event was organized by a large group of amazing friends, people from the Laksam Tibetan Meditation Study Group. So everything from announcing the course, organizing the course, coordinating everything, preparing prayer books, putting everything on the website, all the emails that you are getting, they're all coming from many people who love working together and with each other. And we've been very excited in the last few weeks putting it up together. So thank you to everyone who have contributed to this amazing event. And a big request for patience and a little slack for us. Like I said, it's the biggest event we have ever organized, so it's bound something is gonna go wrong. We will try to fix it. So please bear with us and forgive if anything is not perfect. And I don't want to forget to thank everybody. We have now 140 people here online. There are over 300 people signed up who joined us today. It's middle of the summer. There's probably many beaches and canoes and mountains inviting you, and you chose to spend this time in your gompa, in your living room, in the Buddhist center, and listen to the course. And every one of you made this event more special because of your presence here. So thank you very much for joining us, and we are very honored to have you in this big global family tonight. A couple of organizational things. Like I said, there are translations available, and I cannot say it in all the languages that we are translating to, but there is a little globe, earth sign on the bottom of your screen. So if you need a translation, please use it. You can put any questions you have in the chat. If you have any organizational question, please, throughout the meeting, direct it to me. My name is Nina, so you will find it in the list of participants, and you can send it directly to me, and I will be answering them throughout the course. And because of the number of participants and also the number of languages we are having, we decided to make question asking through a Google form. And those questions that you will submit will be then translated, if they are in foreign languages, to English and sent to Paula consolidated, and she will answer them next time. It's just to make it more flowing tonight with the number of participants. So the link to the form for the questions should be in your chat, either already or very soon. Jeff, is it already in the chat or not? Not yet, so it will be very soon. You'll find a link and you can click on it and put your question down with in language that is convenient for you. There it is. And we will review all the questions and consolidate them until tomorrow night, and then send them to translators and to Paula. So any question you will submit until tomorrow, throughout tonight and until tomorrow, will be reviewed and answered next week. And anything you send throughout the week and later will go into another round of questions. So all the questions will be reviewed and potentially consolidated and answered. So please use the form to ask them. And there will be a Green Tara practice led by Paula on the 25th of August. So one of the Wednesdays that will not continue with the regular course. It will be actually a Green Tara practice, and you are all invited, of course, to join us for that. And the link, I think, is on the website already. So you are all invited, and it will be also interpreted or translated to your native language. And then we are also offering, for those who like to practice and would like to have more opportunities to exchange with peers, we have Together on the Path module, which is offered on Tuesdays. And that will be a guided meditation based on the teaching from tonight, and also a short discussion session in smaller groups. So if you would like to, please join, and we will have on the 24th also Paula joining for that. So if you have questions specific or like to exchange, Paula will be there on Tuesday the 24th as well, and the rest of the evenings will be facilitated by Laksam facilitators. And there will be prayers, which we'll put on the screen tonight, that we'll start the session with, or after the short meditation. And those can be downloaded also from our website, and the link to them is also in your email that our SPC Lars kindly sent to you. Thank you, Lars. So you can download those prayers and use them for your own practice, and also for the next times, because next time onward we will not share the prayers on the screen, just so that all the people can do them in their own languages and are not confused. So everybody uses from the next time their own version. So please download one in the next week. And then very short, FPMT, for those who don't know, FPMT is an amazing organization that supports or works for the preservation of the Mahayana tradition. It was started in the 60s by Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa Rinpoche, two amazing lamas. Lama Zopa is still the spiritual director of this organization, and our Laksam study group belongs to this organization. And it seems to me that since the beginning of FPMT, Paula has been around in this organization. Not only has she been around, I think she was sitting in the cave in a solitary retreat since the organization started almost. So Paula we are very, very honored and excited to have Paula teaching this course, because she is one of very few people probably in the world, Westerners, who can teach it from experience. She spent many years in a solitary retreat to benefit many people, including us. So I really thank you, Paula, for joining us tonight. Thank you for taking the time. I know that you are very sought after and your schedule is crazy. It took us a long time to find dates and plan this course. So we are really, really honored and very grateful for you taking the time, and for you doing all this effort in preparation for being able to teach such a course. And for all of us, it's quite a treat and an amazing thing to be learning about Tantra from none else but Paula. So with that, thank you very much, and I will pass the word to you, Paula. Welcome. And you have to unmute yourself, Paula.
There. How's that?
Now we hear you. Yes, we hear you.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, hello everyone. So welcome to our class on Tantra. I'm actually happy to do this with you all. I'm really overwhelmed with interest in this class. I figured it'd be about 25 people. And so I feel a little bit of pressure from that, and partially because usually when I teach, the way I teach is just by doing and leading meditations. And this is more like a theoretical kind of class a little bit. And and the subject of Tantra is so great, and there's so much about it. And the fact that I need to explain it to people who haven't had empowerments, it's been a little bit daunting to me. I mean, it's been quite a challenge, and I've enjoyed the challenge and I'm a little bit nervous about it, of how to explain it in a way that's simple and short and includes everything. So if I do leave something important out, and other people know, well, I apologize for that, and you can always, write and say something, but I'll just try to give an overview and just point out what's important. And I just thought that tonight, since tonight is our introduction, I would just do just like a journalist, what is it, and who is it for, and how do we practice it, and where do we practice it, and why is it different from Sutrayana Buddhism? So before we do that, I would like to just, I think one of the things that's been so nice for me about this is it's kind of brought me back to my beginnings in Tantra, 40, 45 years ago. And the inspiration that I had from my first teacher, Lama Yeshe. And I just thought that I might, I just wanted to mention, what it was is I was kind of flashing back to being at Tashida Retreat Center with Kebje Sam Rinpoche teaching, and that early, maybe you've all heard it before, but in the classical Tibetan teaching that they say before you start a class, and I just thought it was kind of fun to be able to pass that on, because this class, I'm teaching it from my experience, so it won't be classical Tibetan Buddhism. And I think that if you, we will in terms of our prayers, but if you are interested in that, that's what you learn from the geshes, and I'm not a geshe. And I have studied quite a bit, especially in the first 20 years of my Dharma life. I took a lot of teachings from His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Kebje Sam Rinpoche and Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa Rinpoche and Kebje Sencho Rinpoche and Riba Rinpoche and His Holiness Saki Trinzen, and the list is a long list of great teachers I was able to study with. And then I did all these years of retreat and kind of distilled it into experience. And that's more what I'm interested in sharing, is how we can take these theoretical presentations that we get from the Tibetans and make it work for us, and how we can allow it to touch our hearts and transform our experience, because that's what Tantra is about. Tantra is about experience. It's not about reading and learning. I used to, I remember telling my dad once, who was an educator, I said, it's three-dimensional learning. It's not the kind of learning that you read something, you have some information, you can write it on a test, which is how we study in the West, or even in the monasteries. It's more about taking the information and putting it in your body, and putting it in your personality, and putting it in the way you move, and the way you walk, and the way you talk, and it transforms your whole being. It's not about just knowing a lot of information. So that's what I hope to share with you, is how you can go about doing that, so that your life is changed, so that you feel bliss and void, and are able to contact your habitual habit patterns that need to be transformed, so that we can be the kind, compassionate people that we are, and how to create a world of care, and a world of sanity, and a world where everyone matters. Not just every person, but every sentient being matters, and that we feel it directly in our heart, and not just something that we think about. But back to Sam Rinpoche, and I have a picture of Sam Rinpoche, but I wanted you to see Sam Rinpoche. And of course, the new Sam Rinpoche is not the new one, he's 36 or something. But he lives in Ganden, and he teaches sometimes in Germany, and I really encourage you. And then here's Lama Yeshe, this is one of Robin Bath's pictures. And then Lama Zopa. And so, of course, these have been my main teachers and inspiration. And I think that the point of all this is that goal or the result of practicing Tantra is it's like you're not an ordinary person anymore. And being able to be with Sanghamche and Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa gave me the faith and the inspiration that there is something more than just the mind and body that I have, and that there is something very transcendent and something very magical and something very blissful and something extremely transformative that we can actually become. It's not something we have to talk about. And Lama Yeshe is so insistent on tasting the essence, tasting it, experiencing it. He created these 3 enlightened experience celebrations because he was about experience. And that's what I want to share. So in relation to Kyabya Sangha, I can still remember, it was a long time ago, sitting, he talked about how to listen to the teachings. And you may have heard this before if you've been around Dharma for a long time or even just a short amount of time, but they talk about the vessels, how to listen, how to be the vessel to receive the teaching. And they talk about 3 different types of, not the wrong ways, which is if you're a vessel, if you consider yourself a vessel, like a vase or a cup or a bowl or a coffee cup, you're going to pour the information into. Well, there's the upside down cup. That's the cup that just can't hear the information at all because your mind's wandering away. And then there's the cup with a hole in it, means you hear it, it's completely gone right away. And then there's the dirty cup, which is that it comes in, but it's kind of like so full of your own ideas about things. We don't have an open mind that we can't hear it, we can't digest it. So we want to be a clean, open vessel. And I think the best way to do that is to just sit with the idea of refuge and bodhicitta, because that's the essence of all Buddhist practice, is refuge and bodhicitta. And I think, I don't know who you all are, but I'm assuming that most of you have had some experience with Buddhism, and if not, then welcome, and hopefully this will be some helpful to you. The most important aspect to become this clean, open vessel is our motivation. And so our motivation is to become the most compassionate, wise being, that not only for ourselves, that is also a vessel to share that with all other beings. And one of the things that I would like to share with you about Tantra and what makes Tantra so unique is that Tantra works with subtle energy. And that subtle energy runs all through our bodies, and it connects all of us. I think science is now proving and showing through double-blind studies of prayer and different means of communicating, that we all communicate with each other on subtle levels. And so, however many people we are here today, what I'd like to first do is just stop and feel our bodies and pay attention to our breathing. I check into our hearts, our minds, and whatever's going on, if you're busy thinking about things or different things, whatever's there, just be with it. You don't have to push it away. You don't have to do anything. Just be okay with me right now in this place. Feeling if we're sitting up, hopefully if we're sitting up, then feel our sitting bones and our legs. in our back and our hands, and our arms and our head. And then let's pay attention to the center of our chest, our heart. And think about beings that we love. Including ourselves. But if there's someone in this world that kind of you connect with, that touches your heart, grandmother, mother, child, wife, husband, partner, lover, best friend, dog friend, cat friend, your garden, the mountains you love, the streams you love. And through that connection of feeling love, then we allow that to imagine that we're touching everybody who's on the Zoom, so that we can create a virtual, we have already a virtual connectivity within us all, as if we're all sitting in a big circle out in a beautiful field. And we're surrounded by an orb of golden light. And any obstacles we might be having to our understanding, to our feeling our love for ourselves, to listen to the teachings, to generating refuge and bodhicitta, they just all are sent out outside of that circle where they just dissolve in the space. We're all here to support each other. And then we imagine within our circle, within our sphere of protection, is a Buddha. And if you prefer to see a female Buddha like Queen Tara, rather than Buddha Shakyamuni, that's fine. Just imagine that a being that has completely gone beyond karma, emotional afflictions, it's realized the true nature of reality. Its Buddha nature is completely shining and clear. And by Buddha nature, I mean our potential for experiencing our basic goodness, our mind of clarity and awareness, our mind of love, all the time, our mind of happy. If you can remember a time of being happy. And just imagine that this Buddha is looking down at us with total unconditional love. And every time we breathe in, we feel that. So, and we begin to feel safe and secure. in that love, knowing that every single part of us, all the things that are hidden, all the things that are hurting, all the things that we regret, that they're all okay in this space. We can come to class just as we are, nothing to hide. Because my Buddha nature reflects your Buddha nature, reflects everyone's Buddha nature. The basic goodness is reflected in the Buddha's enlightened activities. We can continue to breathe that in and feel that as our refuge and our potential for enlightenment. In that which is there already, just covered up. By our ignorance. Just allowing that blessing to pour in. And if you don't feel anything, it doesn't matter. Just continue to breathe and imagine. And just think that in this situation, in this time right now, I'm safe. I'm cared for. All the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and they are with me all the time. I'm not alone. And then here we are, this big crowd of us sitting in a circle, maybe we're around a nice campfire. And but then we remember our father, our mother, our friends, our family, our brothers, our sisters, and everybody else's brothers and sisters and family, and they know people, and they know people, and they know people, and they have animals, and they fed animals, and they are big. And so we just let this extend out. We keep our little protection, but it penetrates out. This feeling is coming from the Buddha. Thinking of all the people that we love. And even if we have to imagine this feeling of love for all beings, we just send it out. Touch every single being and wish for them to also experience this unconditional love. This sense of I'm okay just as I am. I mean, of course, I might need some improvement, but I'm okay now. Everybody feels safe and loved. And extending that out as far as we can imagine. So when we breathe in the refuge, and if we understand anything we've understood about emptiness, we can add that to it. And as we breathe out, so that the breathing in is coming from the Buddha, touching our heart, exploding this love for all sentient beings, and then the out breath that goes out and touches all the sentient beings. Just rejoicing. Then we just take a little moment to check if we can notice, that there is a subject, me. There's me who's feeling this and giving this to the sentient being. And we just check up on that me. And just get a sense of what it feels like when you think I. And just imagine that that sense of me, that I, can just melt like an ice cube melts in warm water. And that this imaginative interconnectedness we've just seen is like a big ocean of love. And that sense of I is the ice cube that's melting and becoming inseparable from that ocean of love. It's more like space. And then we can hopefully keep a little bit of that going on, but we have a whole class to talk about here, so we'll keep going. And after all the years, I've done these extensive tantric retreats with 60-page sadhanas and very complicated deities and all kinds of stuff, what it really comes down to, the essence is refuge and bodhicitta, and the essence is just what we did. So I did it quite quickly, but if you can remember what we did, I really encourage you to practice that, because it becomes the foundation for everything else, and I will explain that after we do the prayers. So that is the feeling, of refuge and bodhicitta. And now in Tantra, we talk about body, speech, and mind. So that was more kind of like a body experience of refuge and bodhicitta. And now we'll do the speech. And of course, the final idea of melting the ice cube is more like the mind, the inner refuge, the ultimate refuge is in letting go of this concrete sense of I into the ultimate state of pristine awareness, clarity, bliss, mind, the nature of the mind, the nature of reality. So I've asked Nina to lead the prayers, and so on with the show. Nina, it's your turn now.
Yes. Paula, if I may have a quick interject with a quick request, if you could try to come a little bit closer to the mic, would be very helpful. You are a little soft when you speak.
I'm so sorry.
Come a little bit closer. We can hear you well, but it would be, I think, easier.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I forgot all about it. I'll set it up next time. Vajrayogini Institute sent me a mic, a professional mic.
All right. Great.
So I'll just talk louder too. I can talk. And I forgot to do it. I'm experimenting now. I'm just using an iPad. And so, but next time I'll do the whole big shebang with the professional mic. Jeff will have to help me set it up, but we can quote. Anyway, we'll see. Let's just keep going. But I will talk louder. You have to remind me to keep talking louder.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. So you all should now see my screen, I hope. Lars, can you see it well? Because I happen to be able to see. Okay, great. So we will start with taking refuge and generating bodhicitta. And because there are many people reciting in their own languages, we thought that we recite 2 times in English, Spanish, Italian, French, or German, whatever your language is. And then we will recite one time in Tibetan, and then we will go on in English, and the translators, I think, will be translating or reading it in the translation languages. So I start with taking refuge and generating bodhicitta, twice in English, once in Tibetan. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merits of generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merit of generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. Sangye chodang tsoki chonam la janju badu dagni kyap suchi dagi jinsong sonam ki drola panche sangye drupasho. And the Heart Sutra. I prostrate to the three noble, rare, sublime ones. Thus did I hear at one time. The Bhagavan was dwelling on mass of Vulture's mountain in Rajagiri, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagavan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then, through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara. How should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Sharadavatiputra. Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness, without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no eye element, and so on up to and including no mind element and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on up to and including no aging and death and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell on in the perfection of wisdom. The mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequaled, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, should be known as truth, since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared, Tayata, Om Gate Gate, Para Gate, Para Samgate, Bodhi Soha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commended the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage. It is like that. It is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan, having thus spoken, the Venerable Sharadvatiputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, and those surrounding in their entirety, along with the world of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan. Prayer to the lion-faced Dakini. From the holy supreme realm of Kachara, you who possess powers of clairvoyance and magical emanation, look after practitioners like a mother looks after her children. To the host of Dakinis and of the three abodes, I prostrate. Akasamara Tashadara Marayape. Paula, we do it 21 times?
Yes.
Silently,
we can do it silently.
Okay.
Then you get it faster.
Okay. Akasamara Tashadara Samarayape. Akasamara Tashadara Samarayape. Tayata Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Soha. By the teachings of the three noble, rare, sublime ones possessing the power of truth, may hindrances be averted, may they be eliminated, may they be pacified, may all enemies, the negative forces opposed to the Dharma, be completely pacified. Shantim Kuru Soha. May the host of the 80,000 obstacles be pacified. May we be free from harmful conditions to Dharma. May all excellences be in accord with the Dharma, and may there be auspiciousness and perfect happiness, here, right now. The foundation of all good qualities. The foundation of all good qualities is the kind and perfect, pure Guru. Correct devotion to him is the root of the path. By clearly seeing this and applying great effort, please bless me to rely upon him with great respect. Understanding that the precious freedom of this rebirth is found only once, is greatly meaningful, and is difficult to find again, please bless me to generate the mind that unceasingly, day and night, takes its essence. This life as is impermanent as a water bubble. Remember how quickly it decays and death comes. After death, just like a shadow follows the body, the result of black and white karma follow. Finding firm and definite conviction in this, please bless me always to be careful, to abandon even the slightest negative action and accomplish all virtuous deeds. Seeking samsaric pleasures is the door to all suffering. They are uncertain and cannot be relied upon. Recognizing these shortcomings, please bless me to generate the strong wish for the bliss of liberation. Led by this pure thought, mindfulness, alertness, and great caution arise. The root of the teachings is keeping the Pratimoksha vows. Please bless me to accomplish this essential practice. Just as I have fallen into the sea of samsara, so have all mother transmigratory beings. Please bless me to see this, train in supreme bodhicitta, and bear the responsibility of freeing transmigratory beings. Even if I develop only bodhicitta, but I don't practice the three types of morality, I will not achieve enlightenment. With my clear recognition of this, please bless me to practice the bodhisattva vows with great energy. Once I have pacified distractions to wrong objects and correctly analyzed the meaning of reality, please bless me to generate quickly within my mind stream the unified path of calm abiding and special insight. Having become a pure vessel by training in the general path, please bless me to enter the holy gateway of the fortunate ones, the supreme Vajra vehicle. At that time, the basis of accomplishing the two attainments is keeping pure vows and samaya. As I have become firmly convinced of this, please bless me to protect these vows and pledges like my life. Then, having realized the importance of the two stages, the essence of the Vajrayana, by practicing with great energy, never giving up the 4 sessions, please bless me to realize the teachings of the Holy Guru. Like that, may the Gurus who show the noble path and the spiritual friends who practice it have long lives. Please bless me to pacify completely all outer and inner hindrances. In all my lives, never separated from perfect Gurus, may I enjoy the magnificent Dharma By completing the qualities of the stages and paths, may I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. And for mandala offering, I pass on to Paula in case she needs to be taken off mute.
We'll do this in Tibetan today, so we can all do it together. Saji Poki Juchin Me Chotram Re Ram Le Nide Yam Padi Sangye Shindu Mikse Orgi Drokun Nanda Jinga Chopasho Die. We'll just read this one. All those objects of my mind's three poisons, coveted friend, foe and stranger, body, wealth, worldly pleasure, without a feeling of loss I surrender. Receive them, please, and free all beings from their bondage. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayam. Okay. So yeah, let's just renew our bodhicitta motivation with listening to these teachings so that we can practice the Dharma most purely, abandon all the 8 worldly concerns, generate renunciation, bodhicitta, right view, study well, meditate well, practice well, and become a Buddha for all sentient beings. And along the way, make our world a better place. Okay, so here we go, introduction to Tantra. We may go a little bit over time today because we started a bit late. So, yeah, so what is tantric practice? Well, tantric practice is the foundation of it, and the kind of the intellectual understanding of it is no different from the sutra. You know, it's based on the teachings of Buddha, that what we know in our tradition is the Lam Rim. And in Buddhism, we have these different vehicles. You know, I won't get, you know, there's the Hinayana vehicle, the Mahayana vehicle, and the Vajrayana vehicle. And or sometimes it's called the causal vehicle and the resultant vehicle. And the causal vehicle, the vehicle just means the path to enlightenment, the way we can get to enlightenment. And so the sutra path, the causal vehicle, which includes, you know, Hinayana and Mahayana, is the studies that we learn mostly through studying Lam Rim or whatever Buddhist studies that you study in any of the schools, or any of Theravada or anything. And so that's called sutra. And tantra then is called the resultant vehicle. And the reason it's called the resultant vehicle is because the practice is a little bit different. The way it works is that we take, the reason it's called the resultant vehicle is because we take the results into the path. So here we are, a normal sentient being. And what does that mean? It means that we have a body and mind that is under the control of karma and delusion. And hopefully people coming to this class have studied some Buddhism so that we understand that. So what that means is karma. You know, karma means that whatever we experience, we've created the cause for. And by, if we want to create the cause, this is just very simple. You know, if we want to create the cause for a future that's different from today, then we manage our activities of body, speech, and mind so that we don't harm others. And so by not harming others, we create the cause for our future happiness. And by creating the cause for enlightenment, we can create the cause to become a Buddha, which means we are no longer bound by karma. And the part of the karma that we experience is having this mind that constantly goes up and down, right? And that we have emotional afflictions, we have worry, we have jealousy, we have, our bodies, sometimes we're sick, sometimes we can't sleep at night. We have all these, what we experience as human beings. That's our collective karma as human beings. And so what the path to enlightenment is to transcend that. And so on the Sutrayana vehicle, we do it by creating the cause for happiness by abandoning karmas that we could say negative karmas, but really it's abandoning actions of body, speech, and mind that don't create the cause for happiness. And we do that by studying how to be a good person, really, and how to understand why we are in samsara. And so that basically comes down to three principal aspects of the path, which in more common language is called renunciation, the bodhicitta, and the right view. Now, Lama years ago said that he didn't really like that term renunciation because it kind of has a pejorative connotation that there's something wrong with us or something wrong, with like that we have to abandon our lives, And what it really means is that he uses the definition of transcending definite emergence is the word that he uses. And Alex Berzin says seeking freedom. So it's actually a very positive mind. It's a mind that realizes that there is a possibility that I no longer have to experience this mind that's controlled by delusion and karma, but that I can become a Buddha. And so I want that. And so that's our first step. And we develop that by studying the first two parts of the Lamrim, and I won't go into that, but because most of you know that. They're the foundations, the four preliminaries of practice mostly. And we can go into that another time if we want to. But it's basically just understanding that I have the perfect opportunity to do this, and that my life is very short. And because of karma and because I'm honest about the situation that my life is in, I want to do something about it. And by trying to just use outer methods like controlling the whole world and controlling people around me and getting rich and doing lots of different things, that we get to the point where we realize that doesn't make us happy. And so what makes us happy? What makes us happy is inner transformation, inner change. And that's what the word Buddhist means. It means an inner being. It means someone who realizes that happiness comes from inner causes. That it's a spiritual path that makes us happy. It doesn't mean that we can't have worldly happiness. It just means that we know that isn't the ultimate, doesn't bring us ultimate happiness. It just brings us temporary happiness. So we're looking for something better. And so then that brings us to the next phase is, what's the first way did we start to get to have something better? Well, that's by thinking about other people instead of ourselves. I mean, psychology is documented very well now that even with trauma victims, and I shouldn't say victims, but people who've experienced trauma, the more we can think about other people, the happier we become. And we've all experienced that. And so the ultimate way we can be of benefit to others is by becoming enlightened, by overcoming karma and delusion, and by becoming a Buddha. That's what a Buddha is. It's someone who's a being, a mind that's overcome this ordinary mind that's controlled by delusion and karma, and they develop the extraordinary mind. And so then we come to so that's the second principal aspect of the path, is developing bodhicitta. And then the last one is understanding emptiness. And emptiness, what that means is that it's that our view of the world, the way we see the world, is faulty. And because when we, first of all, we don't understand that we're all interconnected, that everything is interdependent. And when we experience anything, we experience it as being outside of ourselves. And when we experience ourselves, we experience it of this kind of tight sense of me and I. And that experience of self and other, which they use the word inherent existence. It appears to exist from its own side instead of being merely labeled. And we can go into that later if you don't understand, if you haven't taken teachings on emptiness. But mostly what we need to understand is that the way I experience myself now is an illusion. That this sense of separateness, or this sense of duality, that there's me and there's you, and that separation and that clinging to my sense of how I am is actually the root of my unhappiness. And so I was using the idea of the ice cube melting. When we can think of ourselves as this tight sense of me, it's this grasping at me that causes our this karma and delusion. And so the more we can work with that idea of refuge, and the more we can work with bodhicitta, and the more we can begin to relax. Relaxation is a big, big part of these practices. Then that sense of self becomes less tight, and it opens and becomes more flexible. And one of the signs of having success in practice is when you become more flexible. When someone criticizes you, you don't immediately react, or when you see something you don't like, you can feel your sense of I, but you can learn to relax around it and realize that it's very spacious. It's not this, me, I have to, hold on to me. And the way we work with that is that there are many different techniques. And with Tantra, the way we work with that is, and what makes it different from the causal vehicle, is we imagine ourselves to be a Buddha already. And so in order for Tantra to work, these three principal aspects of the path, renunciation, bodhicitta, and right view, we have to understand them very, very well, because it's completely based on that. And without that, then it just becomes some kind of fascination. I mean, imagination, maybe there's some good imprints, but really, and the more we practice the Tantra, the more the renunciation, bodhicitta, and right view develop. And so we do both together. We study the Sutrayana practices, we study the Lamrim, and we do the Tantric practice, because the Tantric practice, it's much faster vehicle. They say the causal vehicle takes countless great eons, whereas the Tantric vehicle can take 16 lifetimes. That's a huge, 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 huge difference. But really, that will only work when we begin to understand refuge, and bodhicitta, and emptiness, and renunciation. And when I finished my second long retreat, I started to see things very simply, and I felt like the three, definite emergence, bodhicitta, and right view was just very simply loving myself, because it takes loving myself to find that refuge, to feel secure enough to let go of needing things from the outside. We need to create a safe, we don't need to, but in order to really let go of the outside world, we have to create an inside safe place, an inside world that's happy and that's blissful. And we can use Tantra to do that, so that we can discover that just simply sitting and breathing can make us happy. It's really phenomenal, that to discover the secret of just simple happiness based on the experience of the nature of mind, an experience of refuge and bodhicitta. And so for that to happen, we need to love ourselves. And so loving ourselves allows us to let go of grasping at all this stuff outside. And then bodhicitta then is really just loving others, isn't it? And so I know His Holiness says they're the same thing. I've seen His Holiness. He goes, it's like, definite emergent, loving yourself, turn that around, loving others. And then what happens? Then you just completely let go. We just let go into the spacious awareness of this great love. And so love is a very important ingredient in Tantra, developing love. And if we can't love ourselves, we can't love others. And I think that this is something that we in our culture, Western cultures, is something that's important to cultivate, and maybe not so much in Tibetan culture. I know that I remember hearing Thupten Jinpa on an interview with Terry Gross on the radio like 30 years ago, maybe. Yeah, when he said His Holiness couldn't believe it when he found out about low self-esteem, that we would have low self-esteem, because why, right? But it's kind of endemic in our culture. So a lot of that has to do with that's sort of the preliminaries, but I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. So we have loving ourselves, loving others, and letting go, the three principal aspects of the path. And so the way Tantra works and what makes it different is that it uses our body and our mind, but also what's very important aspect of Tantra is using our subtle energies. And I think anyone who's done yoga or any kind of sport or meditation will begin to understand, or acupuncture or Reiki, or in fact, Reiki is very helpful. I recommend people to learn Reiki if they're going to do Tantra practice, because that energy is the energy of enlightenment. And that's why we become, it's a quicker path to enlightenment, because we're not just using our intellect to try to apply an antidote or a transformative quality to the delusions as they come. What happens in Tantra is that you feel the energy of that. You feel the energy of that emotion, because emotion is all through your body. There's one Lama who said, where there's blood, there's mind. And so we begin to open up to the idea that my mind isn't my head, my mind isn't my heart, my mind is everywhere in my body. And even my mind is outside of my body. Like that's how we can, like I did at the beginning, we can all relate to each other. Our mind is amazing, And so what happens in Tantra is that when an afflictive emotion comes, we don't push it away. We don't try to, we don't apply an antidote. We don't try to deny it. We don't try to squish it. We don't try to pretend it's not there. We don't try to force ourselves to be patient when we're angry. What happens with skill, with after some skill has been developed in Tantra, is that you just feel that energy. You feel that energy through your body of that emotion, whether it's overwhelming desire or aversion or just dullness, is you feel that. And then you recognize the clarity of that experience with awareness. And that actually, then it becomes wisdom. We let go and actually use that energy of that emotion to begin to understand deeper and more what the great masters, great Mahamudra and Dzogchen masters talk about: pure clarity, pure awareness. And next week, when we're going to work on mind, I'll lead us through meditations on beginning to contact that pure awareness, that pure clarity that is kind of like, it feels almost like it's beneath that energy, but it's actually within that energy. That's the energy of the emotion or the thought, and so within Tantra, the teaching, the basic principle is that we have mind, but we also have wind. And mind rides on the winds. And so the mind and the winds are interchangeable. And the reason why Tantra is a faster path is because this subtle body, this subtle energy body, when we work with it, is the foundation, is the basis for the body of a Buddha. And our mind is the foundation of, it's already present, the potential to be the mind of a Buddha. And so when we practice Tantra, we bring together the form body of the Buddha, the subtle energy of the Buddha with the mind of the Buddha. And the two together become completely enlightened. And the thing about Tantra, about the Sutrayana, is that the Sutrayana doesn't use this subtle energy. And so you actually can't become a fully enlightened Buddha without practicing Tantra, because Sutra cannot purify the subtle obscurations to omniscience, because it doesn't work with the very subtle mind. And so the analytical meditation on emptiness that we do with our sutra practices, that experience of emptiness, is the same in Sutra and Tantra. Mahamudra is the same in Sutra and Tantra from the exercise of it, But the difference is that in Tantra, because we've worked with these very subtle winds, we meditate on emptiness with the subtle mind instead of the gross mind. And then that subtle mind, once we've penetrated it with this mind of emptiness, becomes the Dharmakaya. And the subtle body becomes the Sambhogakaya, it becomes the bodies of the Buddha, and then we can manifest as a fully enlightened being. So I'm sorry if I'm talking too fast. So that's kind of what Tantra is. And it also within this subtle body and mind is the influence of the 5 elements. So we have earth, water, fire, air, and space. And so also working within Tantra, we very much work with these 5 elements, because the 5 elements are related to the 5 major delusions, and they are realized as wisdom. And so it's amazing to be around a really skilled tantric practitioner like Sangha Rinpoche or Kirti Sintra Rinpoche or Lama Zopa Rinpoche, because their 5 elements, because of their wisdom, they have control over the 5 elements. And it's not only the 5 elements within your body, but it's the 5 elements outside the body. And so when you become skilled at working with these 5 elements and can actually do the more advanced meditations of Tantra, then the outer elements are controllable. And that's why these great yogis are also what we might think of as shamans. I mean, I've seen them control the weather. I mean, when Kirti Sintra Rinpoche was at Milarepa Center 30 years ago, or a little bit, maybe 25 years ago, Milarepa Center in Vermont Vermont is a place in the United States where the weather changes every 2 days. You know, it's raining, it's windy, it's this, it's that. The sun hardly ever, you know, there's not a lot of sunshine. And he was there for 3 weeks giving Gurya Samaja teachings. And I wasn't there because I was in the retreat. I couldn't go to the teachings. But I just couldn't believe it. There was not a cloud in the sky. The whole 3 weeks I was there. It was just, I had the most blissful meditations because the whole weather was completely calm. You know? And another time I was with Lama Zopa Mache, and we were doing a fire puja, and it would start to rain, and he'd just pull out this little text and start doing a few prayers, and the rain would stop. So there's this aspect of Tantra as well. And also Tantric practitioners can become great healers because they can work with the subtle elements in someone's body who's ill. So there's kind of a magic about it as well. And you also in Tantric practice will begin to contact subtle beings, you know, and energies, entities like nagas and spirits, and work with them to help control the environment. Like right now, I know Lama Zopa Mache every day, as far as I know, is still doing it. He's doing these practices to all the spirits of the planet, because so much of what some people believe, why we're having so much disturbance, it's not just that the humans are putting carbon into the atmosphere, but also we just disturbed the earth so much with all of the mining and the carbon and the pollution. And so it's kind of like the earth spirits are pissed off, you know. That means angry. And so he is doing a lot of practice to appease these to the spirits. And so that's another aspect of tantric practice that you don't have to indulge in if you don't want to, but you do become more aware of these things when you do tantric practice. You also become a lot more aware not only of your own energies, but of other people's energies. And so I just wanted to mention something a little bit more. The main, the two aspects that what we use in tantric practice is what they call divine pride and clear appearance. And that is because in Tantra, the cause of samsara is what's known as what is it? Let's see. Grasping at ordinary appearances. And so when we grasp at ordinary appearances and ordinary concepts, that means things existing from their own side, you know, this duality, then that's the cause of samsara. And so the point of tantric practice is to overcome ordinary appearances. And so we do that by working with ourselves. And what we do is we meditate on emptiness, because the whole point of Tantra is to experience the two truths simultaneously. You know, we have relative truth, which is the world of duality, the relative existence of things. It's not really, I mean, what we see doesn't exist at all, but the fact that there's the dependent arising side, that the display that we see in the world, there's that relative side, and there's the ultimate side, which is its true nature, which is its emptiness. And so what we do in tantric practice is we imagine that we can already experience the two truths simultaneously, which if you study Dharma, you realize only a Buddha can do that. But we do that in tantric practice. And the more that they really feed on each other, the more you do tantric practice, the more you begin to understand emptiness. And the more you understand emptiness and love, because the love is what opens the heart. And the more you open the heart, the more you can let go, and the more you can experience emptiness. So we have this divine pride and clear appearance. And so the divine pride is what they, or I like Rob Priestley, he uses the word divine dignity. So you have this, from emptiness, you rise, your subtle body, you imagine your subtle body rising as a deity. And this is the divine dignity, which means I'm experiencing we don't lose this sense of emptiness of I. That ice cube never freezes again. We're always in this sense of letting go into spacious awareness. So that's the divine pride. And the other side of it is clear appearance. And that is myself as the deity. Now that experience of the deity, I think a lot of people make the mistake to just sort of have an empty sense of a deity. But in actual fact, that clear appearance of the deity, that subtle body experience is based on love. So it has to come out of bodhicitta. It has to come out of this loving experience, which is why I said it a little while ago, we need to love ourselves, because we have to be able to feel love just without an object, you know. Lama Zopa uses the word non-objectifying compassion. Well, there's non-objectifying love. And so it's another way, you know, you've probably heard about method and wisdom, right? You have the method, which is the, you know, love and compassion, and wisdom, which is emptiness. Well, in this case, the method and wisdom, the wisdom is the divine pride, and the method is the self as the deity, but that deity is in the nature of love, you see. And that experience of in the subtle body, I remember His Holiness the Dalai Lama one time, we had a private interview with him, and he said, you know, meditation should not be cold. You know, whether it's breathing meditation, whether it's an analytical sutra meditation, whether it's a tantric meditation, there's always a feeling of love in our meditations. And so that's why in the beginning, I emphasized refuge and bodhicitta, and letting that refuge pulling into you that sense of being accompanied in your life by the love of the Buddha, and feeling safe, and then sharing that with others as the bodhicitta, and then allowing that to rest in whatever experience you have of emptiness. And so it's very good in the beginning to do a lot of looking for the eye meditation. You know this one, looking for the eye. And before you arise as the deity, you look for the eye, and that not finding the eye is what arises as a deity. Otherwise, it's not deity yoga, it's not tantric practice. So in a way, it's kind of like refuge in bodhicitta. The refuge becomes the divine dignity, and the bodhicitta becomes the clear appearance. And it relates back to the Lama Zopa Rinpoche's kind of advice for when we aren't in meditation, that he often gives two. You know, one of them is what you see. It appears to be, you know, existing from its own side, but you have to remind yourself, what I see doesn't exist at all. What I see is, you know, false. I mean, of course, we have to see what we see, but recollecting that, you know, there's an appearance. My mind labels it, and then I grasp that as being inherently existent. You have to remember that. So that is that divine pride of self. And when you get it for yourself, then you can begin to experience it with the other. And the other thing Rinpoche always says is, you know, don't blame. There's in Dharma, you know, there's no victims in those. There's no perpetrators. There's no blame. And so we can let go of blame by loving ourselves, by loving others. And so that becomes then, you know, the appearance of the deity. And then the other part of what Tantra is not just myself as the deity, and you know, emptiness appearing, but my whole environment is also the environment of the deity. And so it's a pure environment. What that means is then what I just said about not grasping as being truly existent. And so when we get to that experience of when we've advanced our meditation enough that we can experience that pure clarity and awareness, that pure clarity and awareness kind of it permeates, you know, all of our experience, and that is also the deity. And so the tantra is like a step to the final goal, you know, the Ati Yoga or the Mahamudra. It helps us get to the place where we experience that mind is pure awareness, you know. That is our Buddha nature. And so, you know, we learned from Uttara Tantra that we have Buddha nature, you know, we have it, it's here, it's just covered up. And so what Tantra does is, Lama Yeshe used to use the term taking off your blankets. It's like we're sitting with all of these blankets around us. The main one in the beginning is just being our self-pity mind, right? That's what he used to say, you know, this poor me, or I'm not good enough, or I'm lonely, or I'm bad, or, you know, I don't love myself. That's the first one, you know. And using refuge, and using is how we get beyond that, you know, by relating to the Buddhas and feeling, allowing yourself to be the goodness that you are. And so I think I better not go on. So that's kind of as much as best I can explain, you know. But the other thing about Tantra that's really important that I wanted to say, and I'll just try to go on for about 15 more minutes or 10 more minutes, if that's okay, is lineage. Lineage is very, very, very important. So what is lineage? Lineage means is that, you know, I was empowered by Kevji Sangha Rinpoche. I was empowered by Lama Zopa. And so, or whoever is our, and that lineage, you know, goes back to their guru, 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 all the way back to Buddha. And there's something very special about that. And it's one of the things that makes Tibetan Buddhism such an amazing, authentic, alive, effective practice, is that nobody just made it up. You know, it's not, it comes through this, you know, 2,500 years of practice. And if we do understand that there is a subtle mind that's somehow connected to all the other subtle minds, it's like when we take refuge, and when we do, it's like we follow in the footsteps, you know. It's like we get in this stream of grace of all the Buddhas that have gone before us, and we receive a special blessing. So that's why we take refuge, and why we take refuge in the Guru and the Buddha, because it's like as if we were a radio, you know, and we're dialing to the Buddha channel, so that we can tune into the Buddha channel and work within that realm, instead of just all the zillions of things that are floating around in the human mind, in the human sphere of thoughts, you know. So it's kind of like, you know, Moses parting the Red Sea, you know, it's like the Red Sea parts, you know, the Sea of Samsara parts. And there's this direct line to enlightenment when we connect with the lineage. And that's why in Tantra we have commitments. You know, you've heard this, I have my commitments, you know. It's because this is really important, that we keep these lineages alive, which is why we have to practice purely, why we need to understand what 8 worldly dharmas are, abandon the 8 worldly dharmas, and develop, you know, as pure a practice and as pure a moral conduct as possible, as ethical as possible, to be examples, you know, to the world, that we take our practice seriously, and we do our best to keep our commitments and our samadhi, because that keeps the lineage alive. And, you know, in these days, the lineage is very weak. You know, there's not a lot of Buddhism around. It's very degenerate times. And so that's why I'm actually overjoyed there's so many people here, because if we in the West are interested in bringing the Dharma to the West and keeping the Dharma in the West, particularly now in such degenerate times that we don't even know what's going to be around in 30, 40, 50 years, you know. But if humans do survive, and if we do manage to then keep some kind of human culture alive, then what's more important than Dharma? So I really, if you have any interest, I just really, on whatever level, you know, you can practice. So I also just wanted to go about who, so that was what is Tantra, right? So who can practice Tantra? We can all practice Tantra. But it's important to look at our own capacity and what works for us. Because for so many of us who met the Dharma in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, maybe even more, and we receive these empowerments, and we have these, huge, long practices to do, and we just end up with just sort of this busy mind. It doesn't seem to really help us get to that pure clarity, awareness, and love I'm talking about. That liberates us. It makes us happy. And so choose well, what practice to do. I really suggest starting with this Kriya Tantra practice. I mean, my first practice was Chinrezig. I was so lucky to receive it from Lama Yeshe. It was just a really short practice, like 2 pages long, and it was just beautiful. And I could have done that for the rest of my life. It's not like we don't need to run all over the place and get all these different days and do all these different practices. It just can just bog us down, unless we're really highly developed beings like Lama Zopa Rinpoche, who's always getting all the lineages because he wants to keep them alive. But what we want is something that we can practice. And if tantric practice doesn't, we're going to do a green Tara sadhana in a few weeks, please come do the green Tara sadhana with me. You don't need an empowerment. You can see if it works, and if you're happier just doing a breathing practice, that's fine, because one thing that's really important is to start where we are with something realistic that we can do so that we feel happy about our practice. And if it's just 15 minutes a day or something, or waking up in the morning and doing Tonglen and doing breathing practice, that's really, really, really fine. And but I will say that if you're interested in really practicing Tantra, then there has to be an interest in working with your body. And because, see, part of what it is that we have in our karmic propensities and in our, I'm sure you've all noticed that there's some triggers, there's some loops, some karmic loops that we just sort of get stuck in. And it's really difficult to not have those. And see, because they're in our bodies. And as we begin to work with tantric practice, we begin to learn practices that open up these things. So in a way, we have to be really dedicated to healing, not only, to healing our psychological state, because we can't really practice Dharma without working with our psychology as well. We've already mentioned that, working with what Lama called our self-pity mind. That was the main thing he wanted us to understand is how to overcome that through Tantra. And so it's important to on some level begin to wake your body up, with the more, if you think about it, Tantra is a yoga, and all the tantric practices start by sitting in the Vajra posture, So, and I'm not saying that we have to be great yogis. If you can, that's the best, Have a yoga practice is the best because that's what opens up the subtle body. But if you can't do that, you can still do these practices, So anyway, I think that's enough about that. But the main thing really is to just want to be free. To want to be free, to want to help others, to want to understand reality, and so the best way would be to do some, we have to do the preliminaries. We have to study, get some concepts, and understand the conceptual mind is another thing. His Holiness said one time, he said, we can't go to no concept because, emptiness beyond concept without going to the right concept. So right now we have the wrong concept, about how I exist and how the world exists. So we need to study and understand the wrong concept. And then when we get into more subtle states, the mind will relax into the right concept and then go beyond concept. And that's when we, realize the ultimate state. And so just, I think to end is I just like to say that there's definite, maybe 5 or 6 steps that we need to understand and concepts for practicing Tantra. And of course, the very first one is our motivation. We have to have bodhicitta motivation, the wish to attain enlightenment. That without that, you can't practice tantra at all. And then the second one that's really important is what they call acquaintance or familiarization. You have to practice for us to change. It's not going to happen if we don't decide, whatever level we can, but to practice a little bit every day. Either sitting in a chair or lying down or sitting on a cushion. And then as best we can, we bring that awareness into the daily life. And the thing is, when you do tantric practice, this idea of being the deity happens, it as best as you can, it happens all the time. Of course, it's dependent on being able to sustain an experience of pure awareness. But even if we just imagine, so we practice when we eat, we practice when we sleep, we practice when we're having sex, we practice when we're walking, we practice when we're bathing. There's a way to transform every single aspect of life in tantra if we have mindfulness and awareness. So you can see why a very preliminary breathing practice is a very good foundation for practicing tantra, because we need to first find out these aspects of mind in meditation. What is mindfulness? What is awareness? What is the object? What is this? The mind, the alertness that's watching. Who is a watcher? What is it watching? And this mindfulness has to become strong, and that takes practice. So whether we develop this mindfulness awareness through breathing, through Tonglen, through tantra, that takes practice. So then, so those are we have to motivate, we have to practice, then we dedicate. And so dedication is also very important, because it's the idea of when we do practice, we accumulate causes for enlightenment, and we accumulate what's called virtue, which virtue means the potential for happiness. And so when we accumulate this virtue, or what's sometimes called merit, then that merit, it's important. It's to give it a purpose, to give it where it's going. It's like you get fuel in your car, but you have to decide where the car is going to go. So you fuel up your mind with this virtue, but then you have to dedicate it towards enlightenment, or dedicate it to my becoming healthier so I can practice better. But mostly we dedicate it for enlightenment. We dedicate it for long life. We dedicate it for our gurus and long life, for the Dharma, or whatever. But it's important to remember, when you create virtue, to dedicate it. And so the other two aspects, the other things, is this, what we call accumulation, this creation of virtue. The stronger you get, the heavier, the more you practice, the more your body becomes heavy with virtue. That's what lama means. Someone who's heavy with virtue. And you can feel it. You can feel virtuous beings, That's why when we're around great lamas, we can feel their virtue, And but they all started out like us. So we can also create virtue. And the other thing, okay, so we motivate, we dedicate, we create virtue. We also have to purify our minds. So that's like at the beginning, I talked about the dirty cup, or the upside down cup. Excuse me. So there are practices that we use to purify, and we can talk about that later. And then the other thing is that also, as we dedicate, we make requests, we make requests, please, can I, whatever, I need to develop more loving kindness for myself. I need to, it's like your affirmations kind of, I requesting for the Dharma, for the Lama to stay, for the Dharma to flourish, for me to have the conditions I need to practice, for all sentient beings to have conditions. So we request. So, we have motivation, becoming familiar with it, dedication. Actually, that's at the end, but purifying, accumulating, and making requests, right? And I think that's about all I wanted to say, other than I found this little piece of paper that I wrote about 20 years ago when I was reading Geshe Lodin's Lam-Rim. It's, I think, the most excellent Lam-Rim practice book. It's a big fat book by Geshe Lodin, Loden. And he talks about here, it was the causes of bodhicitta. But I think you could say it's also the causes for practicing Tantra. So I just like to read these and then we'll close. So there are 4 circumstances. The first one is hearing about or seeing the qualities of a Buddha. And then after hearing or seeing the qualities of a Buddha, like the example, that's for me. Like I met Lama and I was like, wow, who is this? I want to be like that. So then you generate faith in them because they've said, oh, you can be like me, just do this, And then you get this thing like, wow, this is so precious. I can't let this disappear off this planet. I need to practice just to keep it alive at whatever level I can practice. So we can think like that, I'm inspired. I want to keep it alive, And so even in these great times of delusion, I must aspire to develop bodhicitta. And through practicing Tantra, my bodhicitta will grow much faster. So I must aspire to practice Tantra so I can develop bodhicitta. So those are the 4 circumstances. And then I love Galupa, there are always these 4s of this and 5s of those, right? So then there's the 4 causes. So one is a suitable lineage. And I spoke about that. And I can tell you, we have a very pure lineage, and so we're so fortunate to meet with a pure lineage of Dharma. It's unbelievable fortune. I mean, Lama Zopa Rinpoche is like the purest being on the planet. I mean, along with His Holiness and a few others. So we can't have landed in a better place. And I can't tell you how fortunate you are. I mean, I'm just like a messenger, so, for me, you move on into the proper guru, And then once you found the suitable lineage, you become accepted by a guide and you have a guide. And then the next one is we have to have great compassion for sentient beings. And then what I find is very interesting is that you have to be undaunted by hardship. And I like that because when we enter the tantric path, and if we're really serious about it, or just do it more intensively, I suppose, purification comes. And that can come in the cause of hardship. So it says, in the Lama Chopa, when we do the Lama Chopa, it is that verse about when, suffering conditions rain down on me, may I see them as causes to, excuse me, to purify my negative karma. So when hardships come, Lama Zopa Rinpoche says, he says, we need to enjoy hardships like eating ice cream. Now that's not that easy to do, but you can learn to live with hardship. But of course, everyone has to go. You can't have so much hardship that you can't handle it. So you have to know yourself well enough to know when to stop and slow down, So those are the 4 causes: suitable lineage, accepted by a guide, compassion for sentient beings, and undaunted by hardship. And the last one is the 4 powers. And I like these 2. The power of the self. That means, I can do this. We need confidence. I can do this, which is called the power of self. The power of others, there's a teacher who's guiding me. I have this teacher. And then the next is the cause, the power of cause, which is previous life karma. Like so many of us, when you hear this stuff, you go, wow, I feel home here. It's because we've done it in past lives. But then the preparation is the power of preparation is constantly working to develop bodhicitta. And Lama Zopa Rinpoche gives us all these methods for developing bodhicitta, and of course, Tantra is the strongest method for developing bodhicitta. So we went over a bit. We won't so much now, but we did start late. And if you've left, that's fine. But now let's go back and do our dedications, and then we'll just end with dedication and long life prayers. And I hope that was okay, and you can understand what I said. It wasn't too fast for the translators. I really, really appreciate our translators. We have to appreciate everybody so much. And to Nina and Lars and everybody here. So let's just close with our dedications. And I guess I'll go back on the screen. let's just read them because we're out of time. So I can just read them, Nina, if that's cool.
That's cool. And I just wanted to say to everybody, after the dedications, Jeff will unmute everybody for a moment so that everybody can say bye and whatever you guys have to say. So if you like to use the opportunity to say goodbye to everyone.
Yeah, just hello everyone too, man. I wish I could see all the people.
Exactly.
So, yeah, so let's just dedicate, just all the wishes we have for enlightenment, we dedicate to quickly become a Buddha and lead all beings to that state, that dedication. Just thinking that, just feeling really strong in our heart. And then the next one is to actualize bodhicitta, whatever bodhicitta has risen, may it rise and grow. And that bodhicitta that we do have, when we never lose it, and may it grow more and more and more and more and more. And then I think today we won't do the actual prayers, but we will dedicate also for the long life of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Tebji Zopa Rinpoche, and also Hita and Zong Rinpoche, and all of our geshes and all of our teachers, and all of the people that are preserving the Dharma in the world today, and all of the people that are helping with all of the social, economic, environmental crisis, the pandemic, when we also have to dedicate very strongly that this pandemic passes, because people are suffering greatly. And so we can all be together again. And we always seal it with recognizing the I, understanding it doesn't exist on its own side, and that the dedication arises in dependence upon the people we're dedicating to and the merit we make, all empty. And then we can just take a moment to rejoice how wonderful it is that we're all here together, this worldwide community, about to continue to practice as much as possible. And I wish you all a very, very, very happy evening, morning, day, good sleeps, good healthy body, healthy mind, happiness. So thank you very much.